Hey, all you space cats. Welcome to the Black Hole Podcast, Season 7, Episode 7. I'm Mitch Miller, your host, President of the United States candidate, and the most neutral person in the world, and the most transparent candidate in the United States. So, I just want to touch a little bit on what I talked about in the last episode. Look, we need studies into wireless waves and what the effects they have on humans. These studies haven't been done. We were railroaded into this society where we put all these wireless towers everywhere because somebody built a radio tower back in the 1800s and everybody seemed to be okay. The FCC didn't do adequate testing, and as president, I'm going to make sure we do. And in order to get these tests, you have to be able to stand up to the wireless companies, right? Billions of dollar industry. But not just the wireless companies, the media companies. They're broadcasting air channels over the airwaves. They're invested in wireless communication, so you got to take on all the media companies. But not only that, you also have to stand up to the pharmaceutical industry. Think about it. If wireless is causing ailments, mental illness, certain mental illnesses, migraines, autism, ADHD, as I said, possibly dementia, Alzheimer's, right? If wireless is causing ailment, any ailment, think about how many more pills the pharmaceutical companies sell, right? If this is a cause, an invisible cause of ailments that nobody can prove or disprove, you have to stand up to them too, because they don't want the studies. They want to sell more pills. They're looking at their bottom line. And as the wireless waves have been turned up exponentially in this country, so has the amount of pharmaceuticals being sold to the population. So I'm willing to stand up to these industries. As president, as a layman, I'm trying to do it every day. So, and look, politicians, they don't want to solve the issues, right? They have these hot button issues, and they have no interest in solving it. Either side. That's why they're the corporate communists, both Democrat and Republican. They're together, a two-tiered system of communism in the United States. They don't want to solve the issues because it's easy for them to run. It's a cheap campaign, right? They can buy a couple ads that say, I'm pro-life, pro-wall, pro-gun, and they know they're going to get votes just for putting up those hot-button issues. So they have no motivation to do a deep dive into these issues and work on common-sense solutions. That's why none of them have really been resolved in the past 30 years. Because it's easy for them to run, because they can appeal to your emotions. The media has built so much emotion into all of these issues that you value it, and it just makes it so easy for them to keep getting reelected. So we live under a corporate communist system here in the United States. It's been in place for quite a while. And in this system, everyone and everything is categorized, organized into groups, right? This is typical of communism. And look, I was diagnosed because I don't fit into these categories, these groups, right? My brain works differently. And if you want change, if you really want change, you need someone that thinks differently and not the same as everyone else. So as president, I'm going to stand up for farmers, right? Now look, we have GMOs, genetically modified organisms. They're potentially bad for farmers, right? Corporations, so these corporations, they buy equipment, they hire the scientists, and they basically do 10,000 years of crossbreeding in 2 months, right? Something farmers would have to hand down for generations to get the perfect crop over 1,000 years. these companies are able to do it in a lab in a few months. So I'm not totally against GMOs, but the farmers themselves, they can't afford to buy the equipment and hire the scientists. So these corporations, they're basically setting up a sharecropping system, right? And sharecropping system, was put into place after slavery in the United States, and I've talked about slavery, and sharecropping is just one step down from that, where the wealthy owned all the land and the freed slaves would work the land and give them a share of the crops, right? That's sharecropping. Now, this new form of sharecropping, the farmers still own the land, but the corporate communists own all the crops, right? They've patented the seeds. They own the crops, and the farmers have to share the profit with these corporations. And, here's, as far as hot button issues go, these corporate communists, they have you so worried about when human life begins, right? Arguing and exhausting yourself about this one topic. You're too exhausted to talk about whether we should be able to patent life, right? We're so focused on the issue of human life and conception that we don't talk about patenting life in general. They got you distracted. And I'm going to say this as president, I'm going to say this as myself, as Mitch Miller. I don't think you should be able to patent life, whether it's human, animal, or plant. You can't patent life. So these corporations, look, if they can't patent it, then it's a choice. I'm going to choose to buy GMOs. I'm going to choose to buy lab-grown meat, whatever. It's a choice. Instead of them cornering the market and forcing it down your throat, you choose. I'm educated about GMOs now. They have to educate you, right? And with the patents, they can corner the market. They can work it into the corporate contracts with the patents. And that's how they do this. They feed it to the prisoners. They work it into the corporate prison system. They work it into our hotels, hypothetically. Schools. Then we're all eating GMOs, right? So most people in the United States, I feel, agree that you can't patent life, but they're going to manipulate the media to a point where you're distracted and it becomes another hot button issue, right? That doesn't get solved. So that's, and these farmers, some of them stand up to the corporations. They don't buy the GMO seeds, right? And that's what they're doing. They're patenting seeds, which is life, all the components of plant life in one package. But farmers all around them are drinking the corporate communist Kool-Aid. They buy the seeds, and then these few farmers, they get charged for seeds that blow over into their fields and cross-pollinate with the plants they bought from the local feed store, right? So I'm going to stand up for farmers, and I have a lot of other ideas for farming and farmers. And you need someone like me that's gonna see through their BS, right? So look, I said last season, maybe you should get out of stocks. Maybe you should get out of the stock market, because I made the point that it's a corporate communist market where they all own each other's companies, like communism. And you can keep investing in the corporate communists that exploit people and nature. But my suggestion is, and what I would do as president, is allow the people of the United States to invest in our greatest asset, the land, right? The military protects it. It's our greatest asset, right? And what I'm talking about is high rent properties like hotels and resorts. So what I would do is form a special retirement program like the 401k. You pay in the same way you pay into the 401k, but like I said, all your 401ks go to the corporate communist market to support a bunch of executives and their practices that are not ethical, right? Let's invest in the land. So this fund that you pay into like a 401k, it strategically purchases hotels and resorts. Now ideally there would be a voting aspect of this, as in everything I do. The public can vote on where they would stay. So we would have this information, right? Where are some places you'd like to visit in the next 20 years? And you can fill out the survey, and we would invest in hotels and resorts based off of that vote. And the whole fund would be transparent and governed through direct democracy. But that's just one aspect of how we can be strategic about this. So there would be a general nationwide return rate in the fund and a local return rate. So there's two aspects of the fund. A general return rate of profit, you get a percentage of the profit from these hotels distributed generally nationwide, and then we would narrow it down city by city. If you live in a city and you invest in the fund, you would get a return rate based off of profit for hotels in your city, and that would be a higher rate. And this is, look, people in the city, if they own the hotel, if they own interest in the hotels, they're going to lower crime, they're going to make it safer, and they're going to make it a more friendly city. They're going to be more friendly to the people visiting, right? This is investing in the community to its core. This makes so much sense. And when it comes to tourism, instead of a few waitresses and t-shirt salesmen making some money off the tourism, the whole community makes money from tourism. Not just a few wealthy people that own all the resorts and hotels, right? So we would use some strategy. As I said, have a voting platform of form you can fill out, things like that. For interior cities, we would use strategy, voting app, feedback. And then the coastal cities, we would use a different strategy. Because, look, the wealthy convince the middle class to rebuild their oceanfront houses all the time. It's called insurance, right? And a $10 million third home for a billionaire on the beach. We rebuild that with our insurance fund, and you could rebuild 20 houses that are a couple blocks off the beach that get hit by a hurricane, right? So let's be honest here. The fact is the ocean levels have rose 7 inches in the past decade. Now you can play into the other hot button issue of climate change, whether it was caused by climate change or natural climate adjustment or whatever you want to call it. That's the fact. The oceans have risen and they're going to continue to rise. So again, you have to see through the BS. I'm here to put it out there. The corporate communists will convince us to subsidize their oceanfront resorts and hotels. They're going to manipulate the media. They're going to manipulate the local and state government. They're going to say, oh, our hotel and resort is no longer, the substructure is eroded and it's no longer viable. You need to subsidize us to build a new resort a couple blocks away, right? So that's what I'm saying with this fund is let's be strategic. Let's make our final offer now, right? So we buy our hotels in ocean and coastal cities a block off of the beach. Then we negotiate with these resorts a usage agreement. Our guests can use the beach at their beachfront resort. And then as their resorts become condemned from the rising water, rather than subsidizing whatever they need to do to make it last another 10 years, we allow them to have a percentage of the profit in our hotels that are a block off of the beach for 10 or 15 years so that they can recoup their loss. But they need to plan now. These owners, these wealthy people, these corporate communists need to realize now that we're not going to bail out their beautiful oceanfront resorts with taxpayer money. Okay, this is our offer. We're going to have a fund. We're going to start strategically buying up hotels and resorts. We may build some, and we're willing to work with you so that you can make an ethical profit and cut your losses. But this is the offer we're putting out there. So that's it. It's a high rent land fund. This is our alternative to the 401k, to the stock market. Let's invest in the land. We're specifically focused on hotels and resorts. Even though private corporations and publicly traded corporations are buying up real estate and driving up the housing market and not allowing everyday Americans to buy just single-family homes, we're not interested in that. We're interested in hotels and resorts. Each hotel has its own management and management team, just like each corporation has its own management in the 401k program, right? These hotels have their own management, and the fund is totally transparent and governed through direct democracy. Okay? So if we're going to build a resort or a hotel, that'll be voted on a nationwide platform. If you want to pay attention to the fund, we will communicate well and be transparent about every aspect of what the fund is doing, unlike these corporations and your 401k money, right? They say that they take up a vote of the stockholders for the leadership, but they're not really transparent with the decision making. All right, so I have some t-shirts to raise money for the campaign, the presidential campaign. I'm running for president. There's no can't in American. Emphasis on can't and can in American. I have some art for sale. You can contact me to see it. Or you can see some of it hanging in the Original Ideas gallery in Berwick, Pennsylvania. If you own a gallery and would like to carry any of my art, I have a lot of photography. We could work that out. Appreciate your support. And until next time, I wish you peace, prosperity, and homeostasis.